this communication is important in organizations? How and why? So why? Very clear. If the organizations are not typically communicating 75% of the time, it's either the boardroom meetings or peer-to-peer discussions, or the team managers are talking to their team members, 70%, 75% of it is actually communication. So imagine the kind of time they are putting in communicating the ideas, the proposals, the POCs, everything is on communication. So the most important thing right here is, are we communicating effectively? Is the idea, the concept being conveyed effectively, or it is not articulated well? So very, very important for everyone to work on this communication. So if the communication is thorough, if it is accurate, if it is timely, the organizations will be vibrant, effective. So people really need to work on their communication skills for this communication of the organizations. And secondly, about the interpersonal situations, because if there are people who are not, the team members are not together, if they are not communicating to each other, what happens is the team will be going in different directions. So very, very important that the organizations are communicating, the employees are communicating with each other professionally and convenient to understand each other. Language plays a very important role here. Krisha, can you put my presentation? This is something else being run here. All right, no problem. So moving ahead.
Would you like to present it yourself?
I can do that, yeah.
Yeah, okay then.
Yeah, 1 second. Yes, everyone, can you see the presentation now?
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. All right. So when we are communicating, it is very important that we understand the perspective it is being spoken in. What happens is, what is communication? Communication is actually what the other person is understanding, not what I am speaking. So it is a complete, if you see it in the complete horizon, it is about the perspective, what I am speaking and what you are understanding. So most problems won't exist if people understand what is the difference between an argument and a discussion. So what the argument is finding who is right, who is wrong. Mostly in discussions, in meetings, we are always fixing the blame. Who is to be blamed here? Rather than finding out what is the problem and how we can actually improve the problem. So the tone matters, the language matters. Most important, when you are communicating, it's not just the words, it's the tone, the modulation, the body language. Are you offending somebody with the body language? It is like simple when you are in a discussion. Mostly now it is an agile system, so people don't use a typically boardroom where people have their the conference rooms and the table and the chair. It is an agile system, so we have stand-up meetings now, right? The scrum meetings. What happens in the scrum meetings? Usually you will see the senior people, or even in that case, if we don't go by the hierarchy, people breach the comfort zone. Who all agree with me? Even I'm not talking about, I'm not gender biased at all. So I remember one of my colleagues, she used to breach the comfort zone and stand very close when she's talking, even to the point the guys would get a little offended, you know. So it's not gender based. So very important that we don't breach the comfort zone. Very important when we are talking to somebody, the body language, you're looking here when you're talking to somebody, you don't make the person uncomfortable. So yeah, very good evening, everyone. So please, you can keep asking your questions. I'll be more than happy to answer right here. So friends, very important, your non-verbal gestures, your body language, because If you see in a conference, if you see in a team, the most important thing is non-verbal, because only 7% of your verbal communication is being understood. Yes, sure, Angelica, I will send it to you. You can actually message me on my Instagram at anusi444, and I will send you my presentation on your email ID. You can share your email here. So friends, while we are discussing about the major verbal communication skills, what are the major verbal communication skills? You are listening, most important. See, silence is really not being considered that important, but silently listening to somebody is the kindest thing you can do to a person you are communicating with. Second, you're speaking. Third, reading. And fourth, writing. All right. Yes, Nafisa, I'm sharing my Instagram with you here. You can actually send me the questions and I can revert to you there. And after the session, we will have a Q&A. So you can then ask me the questions, please. Nafisa, I've shared the details here. And Angelica, you can see my Insta and I will give you my email ID there. All right. So as I said, listening is very important. As I always say that talking words, these are overrated. Your body language, your tone, and what you really want to convey can be conveyed with the least of words. That's called articulation, rather than beating around the bush all the time. All right, so listening, speaking. In speaking, you can talk about the modulation, reading, and writing. So if you see together, all these four actually form the communication, part of communication. And while you're communicating, it's not very important to show off your own probably. If you have a very good English, we talk about Shashi Tharoor. He's a politician, a bureaucrat in India. So he used a very flourish language, and he has a very good hold on English vocabulary. So what happens when he's talking? Everybody is mesmerized, but close to nobody understands what he's talking about. So that's a joke. Jokes apart, it's very important. When we are talking, we should be understood rather than being appreciated. So if you are a senior, I understand being senior, we are always in a burden to impress people rather than making our point across. So very important, we step down from that and we talk about simple language where we can communicate, we can understand each other and make others understand our point of view. So we talk about interpersonal skills. When I used to give these sessions, thank you, Feroz. So when I used to give these sessions, I used to say interpersonal skills. If you break it down, it is into the person and kill. Kill, not literally kill, but make an impression, be heard. You should be understood rather than just being, being praised for your language or your content. You should be actually understood and the people should buy your ideas. All right, I'm there on YouTube. I can see communication is very effectively connecting different cultures. Absolutely wonderful point, Valenza. So yes, connecting different cultures and different people around the globe. So when you are in a corporate, you are actually working globally. The world is flat and you have clients from all over the world. Now you need to be sensitive to all the cultures, right? Now, let's say we are talking to somebody and I'll give you an example. Before that, let me complete this. So if you're talking to somebody, hand gestures. So here in India, hand gestures, not a problem. Particularly, I am from Punjab region, so people really like using their hands. And if you go to other countries, there are people who take an offense when you are moving your hands a lot. So you really need to understand the culture before you are talking to them, before you make a pitch, because you're making a sales pitch, the other person is getting disturbed with your hand gestures. So very important, understand. Okay, going ahead. So what are the different channels you can communicate with? Like our speaker before me, Mr. Feroz, he talked about the channel, the personal channel, and the gadgets we use, right? The messengers we use. And I was observing the comments, lots and lots of people were very comfortable with gadgets, with messengers, different Facebook. I remember when I joined my first job, and I saw two people. I was not very clear about the protocols. So two people sitting across each other and talking, chatting on Messenger. I was surprised. Why is it so? Why do you have to communicate on messengers when you're sitting right across each other? So it is responsibility of a human resource, of an HR person, to actually make those protocols. So I was told that the floor need to be sanitized. People should not be talking to each other. That's why they use messengers. And imagine the gist of the entire discussion, it fizzles out when we are using these messengers. So who all agrees to me that it is important for us to actually communicate person to person, face to face? Yes, Nina, Facebook, I know. Yes, sure, it can be sent through email, and you can have it from the moderator. Krisha will send it to you. All right. So moving ahead, what are the mediums? What are the channels? One, face to face. You are discussing with each other. Two, written communication, emails. A lot of times business communication happens on emails, and it is very important to understand the protocols to be followed in an email. An email of about 500 words. Can you actually imagine the agony of reading 500 words email? We really need to put the subject line so crisp so that people can understand what you want to communicate. If it is a sales proposal, the subject should have that. And the content should also not be very elaborative. Rather than that, you can actually ask for a face-to-face time. You can have a Skype meeting, you can have FaceTime, but very important, you shouldn't be writing elaborative emails. And most important, call to action. When you're writing an email, the last line should be about the next action. When can we meet, or when can we have a telephonic conference? Anything. So the last line should be call to action. Non-verbal, as I've already told you, different cultures, different expectations. Hello, Rosanna. So very important that we follow that. Now the visuals. What happens when we are presenting to a team? Usually we will put an entire content, let's say the entire slide will be full of words. Very, very wrong approach. It's very important to have least of words in your presentation, and rather it should be pictures. As we say, pictures speak louder than words. Okay. Umar Farouk, you are saying, is it necessary to learn grammar to become able to speak English? I saw many people saying, no, it is not. See, if you have seen my previous slides, I was talking about communication is verbal plus non-verbal. And the research have shown that only 7% of it is your words. So tell me, where does grammar play a role in that? No, grammar, your vocabulary is not that important. Rather, what you are talking about, how you are communicating, your tone is most important, right? All right. So the audio and visual. So did you see the goof up that happened when I started my session? So I was supposed to go as the first speaker, and thanks to Mr. Feroz, who actually saved the day for me, I could not communicate. Not because I was at loss of words, because the internet went off, the current went off, and that's why there was a flip and I was not audible. So communication is the audio and the visual as well, electronic as well. Silence. As I said, words are overrated. Your silence is so important. When you are in a communication, when you need to take a pause when you are talking to people, right? Let's say if you are making a public speech, you are moving around, your hand gestures, everything, and you are actually talking to people. What happens when you're talking to people? You have to make a pertinent, important point. You stop, you take a pause, you are silent, and then you go quickly. You give the statement. So very important: silence, pause. And of course, as we say, a combination of all these. The choice of the medium would be influenced by factors like availability, cost, urgency, reliability, everything, right? All right. Now, most important, and I really stick to these 10 characteristics. And if you are all with me, tell me what are the important characteristics for you here. First, whatever you are talking about, the content should not be ambiguous. Very, very important. You have to be clear with what you want to convey. Your accent doesn't matter. The world is flat. Everyone is listening to you. So the pronunciation, the grammar, it is not as important as the clarity of your content, your voice. Do you all agree with me here? Thank you so much, Angelica. All right. The second is concise, direct, precise. You should articulate. You should not be beating around the bush. You should save on time and make the right statements that your audience want to hear. Third, correct. Of course, you have to be specific. If you are sharing numbers like I shared 7% verbal, I should do my thorough study. Then only I can be sure about it and I'm not conveying the wrong points. Fourth is complete. Is your content complete? Is it self-contained? Very important. And of course, you need to be polite. You cannot offend your audience. You cannot offend your team members. You have to be cordial, because it is like interpersonal relationships. When you are talking to people, you are actually making interpersonal relationships there. So very, very important, of course. All right. Now, considerate. Very important that you are connected. You are curating the right data. You are target oriented and you have the you attitude. It's not that you are only about yourself, self-contained. No, we need to connect with the audience. See, there are pros and cons to both. Now, because of COVID, we cannot be present to talk to people. But at the same time, thanks to technology, that we are globally talking to each other, we are connected to so many nationalities. So isn't that such a beautiful thing to have? So friends, concrete. We need to have a concrete information, data points, content to share with each other. And the entire discussion should be contextual. Your team wants to talk to you about a particular topic and they're not worried about what else is going in the world around. So very important that you stick to the topic. And then credibility, of course, your commitment, your truthfulness, and your genuine concern, genuine feeling to share what you have learned through your R&D or through your studies during preparation for your main topic. And then, of course, coherent, being consistent, being cautious, what you are conveying, you are at it. So I hope it's making sense to everyone. Thank you, Rosemary, for agreeing with me. Thank you, Dalip. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Vanshi. All right. Hassan says, what is the difference between verbal and oral communication? Well, wow, very good question. Okay, we'll take that. What is concise, ma'am? Concise is to the point. We are giving a concise information. I hope, Nafisa, I'm clear that. So it is again a vocabulary word. And this is a very tricky question, my dear friend, verbal and oral. So you also got me into thinking this thing, oral and verbal. Well, oral can be what you are reading also. Oral can be what I'm saying from the slide, fundamentals of communication skills. Verbal is what I am putting into, all right, we will certainly before the session, Google it and find out. My friends here, take the question. It's a very tricky and a very smart question by Hassan Ibrahimov. You actually caught me there, verbal and oral. Let's all find it out. Verbal is use words to convey message. It could be oral or written. Of course, is when you speak. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Hannah. You saved the day here. Thank you so much, Nina. Thank you. I will be sharing the presentation here. You can ask Krisha. She can share my credentials and we can certainly share the presentation. Thank you. So fundamentals of communication skills here. Mastering communication skills involves finding the right answers to the following questions. What to communicate? What is the objective of communication? How to communicate? Whom to address? When to communicate? And how often to communicate? Thank you for all the hearts, Alia. Thank you. Okay, another answer by Fidel is verbal can be written or oral. Oral is when you talk to convey your thoughts. All right. Thank you so much. I hope we are all making sense here to the question being asked. Okay, how to communicate to a person who doesn't want to listen? Very easy. Use the silence. If somebody doesn't want to listen, the person will never listen. So no point. You can actually convey your point through silence. And I will share a story there. But before that, what to communicate? I'll narrate a very small story to you. Once there was this guy who was in a group discussion and there was like a self-help group. So this person used to go and give very good inputs in the entire group. So he was liked by people. And all of a sudden, this person stops visiting the group. And of course, the quality of the discussion, it goes down with the person missing there. So the head of the group feels that this person is missing. I must go and see why is it so. He goes to the person and the person is sitting alongside a fireplace. So there is this whole fireplace and there is one log which is actually burning brightly. Now the head of the group, he sits there and then see the bright log and he slightly removes that bright log and keeps it on the side the entire the entire woods. So he keep the one log aside. In some time that log is out of fire and it's just smoldering and not doing anything. All this while this guy and the head are sitting in silence because the guy doesn't want to listen. So now this person, the head of the team, he picks up the log and places it back in the fire and the fire starts vibrantly, like it's lit up like anything. The person didn't speak a word here. Did you notice? And then he gets up to leave the no conversation room. But the guy who stopped coming to the group discussions says, I got your point, sir, and you will see me regularly from the next time. Because he understands that without that entire group, he is also useless. And with that group, the entire group's vibrancy goes high. So this is how you can communicate in silence. I hope the story makes sense to everyone.
Thank you so very much, Anuradha ma'am. We would love to take more questions, which we have noted down from you and Feroz sir now.
Sure. So, all right. So I get the point that it is very important to finish in time as well. So, all right. So I'll be more than happy to take the questions. And as I said, silence is important. So I will take silence. And I will add humor is also important. So we made quite a fun of that question on oral and verbal. That was our humor. I hope you all were with me throughout. Your questions actually steered me and gave me direction. Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah. So we are
Thank
ready
you.
for the questions.
Thank you so much, Anuradha ma'am. The
Thank you.
first question for Feroz sir. So, according to you, what time should be enough for a certain dialogue or a certain message to communicate?
Could you repeat the question once more?
According to you, what time duration should be enough for a dialogue